long essays. So I wrote four. The topics are generally kind of like the Common App. I had one main essay focused on showing the admissions committee like an essay that describes who I am as a person. So it was a very holistic kind of just your story or the main aspect of yourself the college wanted to know about. The second essay was specific to like which college or like which school within Georgetown you were applying to. So I applied to the college. So my question was, I think, what does it mean to be educated? Um, and then I wrote two shorter essays. One was on any special talent or skill I had, and then one was on describing the most significant activity I was involved in throughout my high school life. So those were the four essays that I wrote about.
My experience was similar to Arianna, but I didn't do any early application. So I submitted to the Common App and the UC schools. So that's University, UCLA, like UC Berkeley, UC San Diego. All those schools have a separate like portal for the application process. So I wrote kind of two, I would say like more general essays about why I think I'd be a good college applicant. So one for the Common App, mostly what people write on for that is name like one life-changing experience. So that was what my Common App application was for. And then the ones for the UCs, it's very similar like format. So I wrote it very similarly. I would actually, similar to Arianna, I would like take what I took in some essays and kind of use it and recycle it in a lot of other ones. 'Cause I had to write quite a few. I think I wrote about, so there's two main ones. And then for, I think, two or three other schools, I applied to USC. I also applied to Notre Dame and Northeastern. All those three other schools, I wrote like specific applications for. And then the UCs as well had their own applications. And those ones, whilst they were like shorter, they were more specific. So some of the essays were like, why should you be a student in this school specifically? Then obviously you need to talk about how your character and your personality matches that of a student going to that school. I also applied to the art program in both USC and in UCLA. So those ask for very, very like niche essays that talk about art. For example, I did an essay on art versus design. So again, those were like two or three extra essays on top of the ones I already had to write. As a total, I would say that's like around 10 essays. Yeah.
Great, thank you both. So another question that we have is, I know you guys shared the prompts that you used to follow your essays, but if you could share maybe what one or two of your essays was about. So for example, Ariana, you mentioned what activity you were most involved in. So if guys wrote about like being on the swim team or a relative, something like that, maybe one to the three of your favorites.
Yeah, I have one favorite essay. Like this, in my opinion, will always be maybe like the best essay I've written, just because I think it really captured who I am. So like the whole point when you write your essay is that you have like a story and you're packaging yourself as a story. Like you're packaging yourself not as a one-dimensional person, i.e., like you're just on the swim team and you're a swimmer, or you're just a debater and you like to debate, because you have to package yourself as a multi-dimensional person, because that's who you are in general, right? Like that's who you're going to be on a college campus, wherever you choose to go to. So this essay, like the direct prompt is like, as Georgetown is a diverse community, the admissions committee would like to know more about you in your own words. So please submit a brief essay, either personal or creative, which you feel best describes you. So when you get an essay like that, which best describes you, you don't have to think of it as like, what's my biggest achievement, or like what's the best thing that I did, because at the end of the day, that's not really you, like as a whole. Like it's really, think about your story and what matters the most to you. So like for me, what mattered like the most, and what still matters the most to me, was like my relationship to my brother, who has autism and he has a speech disorder. So I wrote about like essentially growing up and what that dynamic is like, especially in a place like the Philippines, which is very ableist, doesn't really provide much like care and concern for disabled people. And then I linked that to why I started debating, because when I was in high school, I was like on the national team for debate. So like linking those two together, where it was kind of like him, my brother, not being able to speak up for himself and not being able to really navigate this world because of his disability, encouraged me to want to stand up for groups like the disabled community and other groups, which I was able to do through debate. um so like that was one essay that, so like the core there isn't that I was on, you can mention that, like obviously you also have to like flex and show stuff you're good at. So obviously I had mentioned that I was on the national team and like other stuff that I was doing for a debate. But at the end, that wasn't who I am. Like the core was that I loved my brother and I cared about the disabled community, and that was something that mattered to me. And then linking that, and then always when you're in an essay, like link that to why um you kind of want to go to that school. You don't have to name drop the school, but you can be very strategically subtle about it. So like when I had said it, like the way I framed it was that I wanted to be in a school which cared not only about academics, but about the whole person and about making significant social impacts. And that's something that Georgetown really cared about. So like already try to like bring in some subtle hints that would be like to the school, would be like, oh, she would be a good fit. And then another essay that I think I really liked was my like include like your special talent or skill. And I was like, shit, like I don't really know what my special talent or skill is. But then I was, and here I was like, I thought that my other essays already showed my academic side, what I was doing extracurricular wise. So I was like, I need something that shows that I'm like a human being and that I have like interests and hobbies outside of all that I do. And I was like, so I wrote about the fact that I wrote fan fiction when I was like younger, but I linked that to because I was heading the yearbook committee, but I was in charge of like writing everyone's bio notes, like their description of themselves. So I said that I liked writing about other people, and I think that I'm able to capture other people's personalities and interests and put them on paper really well. And I even mentioned as a funny anecdote that I think this started because when I was like 12, I wrote like One Direction fan fiction. So because I was like, I really don't care if they see it, because they think that like, oh, she's fun, like she doesn't really, she's a human being, like she's still also like a kid who wants to go to college, right? So like again, also just think that you're a human being. They just want to know your story, see what matters the most to you or what's unique to you, and then just go with it. That's like that's the tip I would give.
Those are all like really great tips. Really, really good. Also really inspiring about your brother. So I think my favorite essay was also the one, like the main one I submitted to the Common App. It was like, what event in your life, or just something like that, like what event in your life had the most impact on you? So I talked about how when I was younger, I used to compete in like figure skating. And what I really wanted to show there was like my personality, because obviously those things you can't really like communicate on paper when you're listing out like tasks or special clubs that you did, or like awards that you won. So again, like what Arianna said, you really want your personality to shine in those things. And where was I going to write like, oh, I used to figure skate when I was younger? No, nowhere else, right? So I decided to write it in the Common App. And also like, I think that college admissions appreciate when you show like sincerity in your applications. So if you can really bring it across that this is who I am, this is what I'm passionate about, and this is my personality, then that will give you like a competitive edge. I wrote about how I watched Disney on Ice one time and it inspired me to become a figure skater. And I linked that to like my work ethic. So I talked about that. I talked about pursuing triathlon as well. And then later on how I would like tie in this work ethic into my art. And that was kind of what my essay was about. And honestly, like looking back, those three things really did have an impact on like who I am as a person. And because there was like truth to it, like I think it made my Common App more, I guess like more powerful in a way. Yeah. So the advice I would give is just like be like genuine, and make sure that you show off your personality, like things that make you very, very unique as a person. Everyone's gonna have great grades. Everyone's gonna be like captain of, I don't know, the soccer team or something. But you know, like things like figure skating are, I think, pretty unique. You should make that shine in your essays. The other one I did, for the art school was like art versus design. I think like these ones are like very, whilst I don't like love writing them, I think they're like pretty interesting to write because they're not about like who I am generally as a student, like pursuing academics. They are who I am like as an artist. Or maybe if you are in the medical school, there's like something specific to you as like a medical student. And I think like there again, you need to really show your passion for the subject that you have, not just to like learn and everything, but like why do you love design? Do you like typography? Do you like packaging design? You know, like really show that unique side of you as an individual studying like the course you're studying. Yeah.
Great, thank you both so much. Those are amazing topics. They seem so interesting. So the next question we wanted to ask, we are definitely aware that you guys aren't like admissions officers or anything, but I think that it's really important for you guys to talk about what you liked about your essays and maybe what you didn't like. So for the first question, in your view, what were the strengths of your essays? And similarly, do you think your essay had any weaknesses? And what were they, if ever?
Yeah, I'll do like the more technical essay that I did because I think most schools will have like a side where you have to be pretty technical. So this was the like, what does it mean to you to be educated? How might Georgetown College help you achieve this aim? That's more technical because the school's directly asking you what about them will help you achieve your goal, which also the reverse of that, and you always have to think of it is it's not just like how might blank school help you, it's also what can you bring then to them, because it's very transactional. Like universities aren't just looking for students who they know they can help achieve their goals, but they're looking for students who they know will enrich their school. So you have to think of it as like two sides of like the same coin when you're writing that essay. I think one like a strength I really had in this essay was that I like name drop. So you and I really think you should be very rigorous about this process, but really research because everything you need to know about that school is online. Like you will be able to figure out what classes they offer if you search it online. Like you could, like you can type. So like I knew that I wanted to do government at Georgetown, but I didn't know what classes. So I literally searched like Georgetown College, like government major requirements, because there will be a page that will show you what classes are there. And then there's going to be a hyperlink page to the professors that do it, like their faculty, etc. So I name dropped like classes that I wanted to take that were specific to Georgetown and that helped me, that I knew would help me achieve my aim, which is that like I wanted to go to law school right after. So it was like pre-law. And then I also mentioned a professor. Really, it doesn't really matter who, like I've never taken a class with the professor I mentioned in my essay, but look for a professor. On their page, they will probably have like their works listed. Click one of those works listed, read through it, even just the abstract, and then like drop that in the essay. Say that like I want to work with like, or you do it like at Georgetown College. I want to have like Dr. Blank as my mentor. I believe that her expertise and blank, 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 again, the abstract of the work will help enrich my goal of blank. So like you see, like you're connecting it. And I think that's a strength because it shows the school that there's something specific about them and their program that will help you achieve your aim. So really do research on that. Also, if schools have a mission statement, if you're able to find that mission statement, which is also a quick Google search, there's going to be one or two core values that really that like show the school, like what the school stands for. Like in Georgetown's case, their two main values were like cura personalis, which is like caring for the whole person. And also they have this thing about like Ignatian spirituality because they're a Jesuit school. So I was able to find a link between an org that I was doing in high school that was rooted in Ignatian spirituality. Then I linked those two. And then I said that I wanted to join another club at Georgetown that would continue that. So you have to find continuity as well in terms of what you've been doing as a high school student and like inside and outside of school and what you're going to do in college and then like continue it, right? There has to be like a continuous flow. It can't just be like, oh yeah, like I was in the swim team and then you jump to like a really random club that doesn't really have continuity because they're like, well, you're just saying that because we know you want to go to this school. So there has to be like genuine continuous flow in what you're doing. And I think another thing I did well was I went through the list of clubs at Georgetown and noticed that they didn't have a disability like club or like a disability advocacy club. So I stated that when I'm at Georgetown, I will work with other students to establish one. So then that shows that I'm contributing something to Georgetown, right? So then they're like, oh, this student isn't someone who we're going to educate. It's someone who's also going to make our campus and our community life much richer. So that I think is what I did well. Also, they love international students. Milk the hell out of that. Like they really do love international students. Like say that you're a Filipino, if you have very like, like say your background here. Also, I don't know, this is just a common thing I've noticed among friends. Whenever you write, like say that you want to learn something and then bring it home to the Philippines, like because then it shows that like you more than you like escaping for like the college life abroad. It's because you know that you can learn something there that you can bring home, which will fulfill like and which will make life at home and life of the people as well at home more meaningful. So like that's something I did well. Something I think I didn't like a weakness. Um, maybe too wordy. I think maybe one or two, like, because they are reading a lot of essays. So if you can like make something more concise, do it. I think also at the time I was also concerned with like making some of my language more like florally and like flower, like like sounding more like I didn't have to. Like I could have literally just said the word like as it is. Like you really don't have to go to like a thesaurus and like look up like, just write it. Because it also just sounds like fake. So don't worry too much. But if you are a creative writer, like if that's really your specialty and the creative writing essay like portion, do it. Like show off like your writing style, like your linguistic like capacity. But if you can't and you're like a very straight up person, just write how you write. Don't try to write like someone they'd want to hear because they'll know it's fake. Just write like yourself.
I think building off of like that last point, a mistake I also definitely made was like trying to be, actually I made this and then I ended up rewriting like everything because I made this mistake of like having too much floral language. Like when you even show your peers are like, this isn't you. Like I honestly this is like a tip, having like your peers proof for you is like also pretty good. I found that really useful. Anyway, yeah, like being too wordy. You need to be concise also because you don't have that many words. So if you want to say this was good, just say this was good. Like don't say another like really difficult word that no one's really gonna understand. So yeah, being concise because I wasn't the first time around, and that really like you know caught up with me as more time went on. And leading off of that, another weakness I think I had was not giving myself not enough time to complete the essays. So near the end of it, I was like rushing to just churn out anything I could. And because of that, obviously you lose like the quality of your words, what you really want to say in your essays. And you need time to like draft and redraft these like plenty of, you're like 4 or 5 times, 6 times even. So the more time you give yourself to like make these essays, the better they're going to turn out to be. That's probably one weakness of mine. Also, like you can better build up your character, your character, your person and your narrative if you also have more time. That just yeah, start like as early as you can. That's definitely my the weakness of my essays, I think. And also talking about community. I think they really, really like the fact that, you're from the Philippines. So if you can like talk about that, like don't like beat them over the head with it, but like imbue that in like little parts. Like say, oh, I used to eat, and one of mine was I used to eat pandesal. Like that was like one point of it. And they're like, oh, pandesal, that's unique. It talks about like her heritage, where she's from. I think they like that a lot. I think another strength of my essay was again just being like genuine. I think that like my writing style is not flowery at all. And when I really stuck to that and I made sure that, I was straight to the point. And I can't, in my essays, like I think I'm a pretty positive person. And when you kind of like put those parts into your writing, I think it makes your application like more competitive. Also, I did the similar thing as Arianna, and I researched what the schools actually had, so what the classes were, I did the same professor thing. I name dropped like 2 professors in one essay that was specific to like, why do you want to go to the art school in USC? And like, I even named like the name of a building, you know, and I don't even remember what they were, but it just shows that like, you're really interested in going to the school. You know, you've done your research, you understand like student culture. It just, that's what it comes across as. So I think that they really appreciate that and look for that in like essays.
Sorry, yeah, I just remembered a tip. Like just to add, there's I was thinking, because right, like the essay is supposed to make the admissions committee feel something, you know, and like a positive feeling, right? Like you want to make them feel like, oh, this person is like a very emotional, like attuned to her emotions person, or like, oh, this person is a very dynamic individual. You want them to like, I don't know, laugh, maybe kind of tear up, like, you know, whatever. But there's a fine line between doing that and also what a trend I've noticed recently is like trauma dumping in college application essays. Don't trauma dump, because like these are admissions officers who you literally don't know their names, right? Like you literally don't know who they are. So when they get that essay and they're maybe on their like 13th essay of the day, and it's a very trauma dumping essay, they're not going to read it because they feel like they're overstepping a boundary or two. It will make them feel uncomfortable, and that feeling of like being uncomfortable will not make them focus on what you're trying to say in the essay. Not to say that you can't write about an event that was really impactful to you and was like very emotional, i.e., like a death of a family member or someone getting sick or an injury you had while playing, I don't know, like basketball. Like, not to say that you can't say those, but the point isn't like obviously, yes, the point is that event happened to you, but the more important thing is what did you do with it? And that is the positive arc of the story that isn't trauma dumpy. You know, like because you can frame that, like obviously like my essay with my brother was a very like I think it was a very emotional essay, but the point isn't that it was sad, and that a large part of like growing up with him was like sad, but it was that it made me want to do blank. It made me want to be blank kind of person. So there's like a very fine line. Also goes for like trying to be like funny or witty or quirky in your essays, because that's also like it's hard to pull that off too. So like you can show character like being funny and like a one liner that's like, oh, that's like oh, that's witty, or like that's funny, but don't focus so hard on being like, I have to make this like an emotional essay, or like I have to make them feel something, or like, oh, I have to be funny. Just focus on the main objective, and like, which is showcasing like who you are, why the school should accept you. And along the way, again, like what Sophia said, if you have time, your personality will start to shine through in some rewrites, because you'll be like, oh, I could have said this, I can say this in a funnier way, or oh, I can say this in like, I can mention a catchphrase that like my friends and I used to say, which I think they'll find funny. So like don't focus too much on that, because you won't write anything. Like you won't get anywhere and it will sound so fake. Just let your personality shine through as you rewrite over and over again.
Great, thank you so much, both of you. That's great advice. So this question is specifically for essays wherein you have to choose a prompt as opposed to getting a prompt. So Ariana, did you answer an essay like this where you had to choose a prompt, or was this?
No, I didn't choose a prompt. Actually, thank God, because I also don't know. I feel like Sophia would know more. I looked at the Common App. I'm just happy I didn't have to go through the Common App. But again, same tips. Like choose something that you know you can write about in Milk. Like don't choose something you think they want to hear. Choose something you can write about and you have a story about.
Great, thank you, Ariana. So yeah, Sophia, we want to know what was your thought process when selecting the prompt that you used for your Common App essay specifically, and if you had to write other essays where you had to choose the prompt. Yeah, let us know about your thought process, please.
So yeah, the Common App has like quite a few options in there. I think it's like 6, if I remember correctly. But what I did is I shortlisted them. So I had like 3 that I think I could have written topics on. And then I just brain dumped any sort of idea I had for each of those 3. And then honestly, I also did drafts for them 3, kind of. I did like a first paragraph for each of them 3. And then when you kind of start like writing, getting into like the meat of what you want to say for each of those like Common Apps, I'm not telling you write 3 full on Common Apps. I'm just saying, kind of develop your ideas for 3 options, you know, so you have options. And then there is one that you naturally feel like you, I guess you feel more passionately about, or you feel like you can write about more easily. And for me, I had the option between, I think I did like one, like tell us about like one talent or skill that you have. There was another option, and then the one that I did end up doing was talk about like an event or something that happened to you that like changed your perspective on something else. And the talent or skill one, I found myself like really trying to fish for something that I thought was super unique to me. But then I ended up writing like kind of fluff. Like I was really like boosting up this one idea when the ideas for the second option, which is like what event, just flowed more naturally. So again, like don't like go for a prompt that you think will look better. Go for one that you know you can answer more, being the person that you are, when you're like choosing. And it was hard. Like it took me a long honestly, like planning what I was gonna write took me like a little, like almost as much time as it did to actually write the essay, because it's that like initial thinking about what you're going to say, like what about me do I want to express on the paper, that you really need to think about and like have set before you write like 600 words on it.
Great, thank you both of you. So another question we have is, what are important things to consider in writing an essay? So for example, one thing that people always say to consider is to not write a cliche essay. So if you guys have any ideas on what you think are the most important and what you think about the things that people usually say are the most important, please share them.
Okay. The thing is, like, a common misconception is that like you have to show off like achievements in college essays, when I think it's really the opposite, because they already have your SAT scores and they have that list of like, oh, which extracurricular activities did you do? So the college essay is all about like you and what matters to you. Like literally write if you like if there's something in your house, for example, that means a lot to you and your family, for example a dining room table, like um just throwing like ideas off the top of my head. So like I'm Chinese Filipino, so like at home, like all Chinese families have like the lazy Susan table, right? Like right now I could think of like how to frame that story of like that dining table and what that means to me and my family, but then make it unique. Is there an engraving on the table? Is there a specific reason why it means so much to you? You can write about that because it shows another aspect of yourself that they will not be able to see about you like on paper. Like if they were just seeing your like SAT scores and your grades and everything. If you like a TV show, I don't know, like Gilmore Girls, like that's your comfort TV show. Why is it your comfort TV show? Like why do you like it? And then like link that, oh, maybe you're a film major, or like you want to do like a film minor. Then what aspects about that film like have influenced your kind of own specific style in like filmmaking? You know, like there's always a way to connect something important or significant to you, because it is like when you think about it like and sit down about it, it really is like important to you and like significant to you. I like one, oh, I did write some other drafts for other schools, like just in case. Like I had written like a draft for like NYU, and then like that draft I had talked about like the idea of like 24-hour like pizza places, and like why like I think that's like significant to me, and like why, and I linked that to like the idea of going there with a group of friends and getting pizza at like 3 a.m. in New York and envisioning myself there. And that's why I wanted to go to the NYU New York campus instead of like the NYU Shanghai or like the NYU Abu Dhabi like campus. So like just really just sit, like I think the tip is like to sit down just one day and just like brain dump every significant thing that you can like literally think of, like anything. And then you'll start to see that some of them will link together and some of them will link to a school or will link to a program, and then it will like work out. In terms of like avoiding cliches, um avoid like the cliche like linear arcs, like the bad event happened, what happened to me, this is like what I did after. But if you follow that arc, the in-betweens have to be very unique. Like, do you like don't have like the same conclusion as like another, try to not have a similar conclusion to like another candidate writing an essay. Um, and also like some schools will like certain things more than other schools. Like if like I noticed like NYU really likes students and like essays that are very like innovative. They want very innovative ideas, groundbreaking thoughts. So if you, for example, have a startup idea or you did a little entrepreneurial gig during COVID, that link that to like the innovation aspect of that school. You know, like schools will have a little thing that makes them very unique, because they also like schools also have rankings, right? And they also have like different communities, to trying to get a feel for that community and that like what's specific to them, and then look for something that you've done and you can kind of like tailor towards that, and then it will like that will make a more meaningful essay for like admissions officers.
Arianna mentioned this, but if you can take parts of your essay and give it to someone else and it'll sound like them, then that isn't a part you should be writing. Like if anyone could write that paragraph that you just wrote, then like change it up, because you need it to be very, again, very specific and unique to you. Like what I did is I literally I sat down and I wrote down everything that I thought made me unique, whether this was the fact that I like beaches or the fact that like I figure skated when I was like super young, like literally, and the fact that like I have this like one pot like in my room, literally anything that I thought like makes me unique and is like somewhat significant to who I am as a person. No matter how stupid it sounds initially, just write it down, because what Arianna said previously, like eventually it'll kind of all fall into place, you know. You're like you are your own person, you know, like you can show that through your writing. So kind of, sorry, my dog's like loud and it's like bang on my door, but anyway, yeah, just make sure that like you really talk about what makes you specifically like unique. Another thing I was going to say was, yeah, like making sure you fit the personality of the person who is applying to the school, you know, that you want to apply to. So for example, like USC students, from my personal experience, like meeting other USC students, I found that they're more extroverted. They like a lot like outdoor sports generally. So if you like make sure to make those aspects of you that resonate with the school shine through those essays as well, because that makes you like a unique candidate for that school. I think other things, yeah, like talking about your academic achievements in essays, like what Arianna said previously, you don't need to do that like at all. I made that mistake initially. I even made the mistake of writing an essay that you could literally give to another kid and it looks like their essay. You know, I put very little personality in it and I scrapped it completely, because I mean, you don't need to talk about your achievements if you have them written down in your application, you know. Talk about like different sports you did, like different random objects you have, like really, really focusing on aspects of you, your life, that like are unique to you.
Got it. Thank you so much, both of you. So the next question we have is in terms of integrating topics. So how do I integrate both my background and current accomplishments and ECs in my college essays?
It depends on the prompt of the essay, and then you'll find something specific about your background, whether it's like a personal like background or your academic slash extracurricular background that will fit. So for example, like on the discuss the significance to you of like the school or summer activity in which I had been most involved in, that is that essay already calls for you to integrate something about an extracurricular that you have done, right? So I wrote about joining and being a member of like the national debate team. But it's not just that, like it doesn't end there, right? Because what does that even say about you? What you then have to focus on, and I think is the more important part, is what about that activity made you you, or makes you a candidate that they want. So in that instance, when I wrote about being a member of the national debate team, I wrote about the very rigorous like training process where you have to like train a minimum of 5 hour, like 5 hours, like 5 days a week when I was preparing to go to like the world schools, like debating championship, and then balancing that with having to do like all my academic like responsibilities and then applying for college too, or whether it was like having to overcome feeling like um socially awkward about around new groups of people because I was constantly competing with like strangers I never knew from like all over the Philippines or even abroad. So like when you integrate, if you do integrate an extracurricular, make sure it's not just the title or the achievement, it's the process behind it, or how it made you who you are, and why that would be an asset to you moving forward in college at that specific university. And when you also like, you know how they say like you can be very like, you can show off your achievement without it sounding arrogant, and there's a fine like it's there's a fine line that even I can teach you how, like you will just do it as you write. When you write and when you hear it, you'll be able to kind and like how it flows with the rest of your essay. You can tell if you sound like someone who's like demonstrating a passion for an activity which led them to be successful for that, like to that activity, right? Or like versus someone who's just like, yeah, like I'm good at this. Like you'll be able to hear the tone change. And also, again, the best resource for that tone change are your peers, who are going to be the first to call you out if you sound arrogant, like in a college essay. Um, I wouldn't suggest parents because like there already is an innate part of them that makes them want to be proud of their children. So I don't think they'll be the best people to tell if you sound arrogant and not like a real human being in essays. I'd leave it to your your peers, like who are also writing essays on their own. Um, also like any, well, like obviously what major you're choosing to study and like why you're applying to that school, you'll obviously have to name drop what field of study you're trying to go for. So try to talk about classes that you took in high school that already have given you a foundation for that and why you want to continue with like moving forward. There's a, you know, so whenever you do drop something, whether it's like an extracurricular or a class or an academic achievement, always link it to the college, and then um why, like moving forward, like why you also want to continue that like line of study. So again, like I guess like the main tip is just like always have like continuity, and also just don't drop a title or an achievement for the sake of doing it. Do it because it shows something about who you are as a person, and what you're trying to accomplish moving forward.
Definitely about like linking it to who you are as a person. I also think like try to avoid listing when you're like writing down like accomplishments and extracurriculars. Don't say like I was the captain of this, I headed like this club. um Again, you want to like center around a narrative, because all of your essays are essentially like narratives and like stories, right? So you don't even need to talk, don't try to fit all of your accomplishments in like one essay. Like talk about very like specific accomplishments or specific extracurricular activities, and focus on like one or two, and then really like talk about how they maybe developed you as a person, how they made you more interested into like your field of study. For example, I did one about how I would like paint murals in different schools across Manila. And I talked about how that made me more interested in, you know, art in general, and as well as like partnering with like NGOs and like art, and how you can make that a form of like therapy or art and like charity. So again, like I didn't only talk about the extracurricular or like the accomplishment, but I talked about how that impacted me further down the line, or how that impacted me like as a person, my own character. So you really want to make sure that it like it flows. It isn't just like a stagnant one liner thing that you're like, oh yeah, like I stamped this, you know, I have this name tag that shows that I'm like head of the club. You know, you want to really like express your involvement in the club, and express like how you genuinely like enjoy this like extracurricular activity, or how this accomplishment really means something to you as a person.
Great, thank you so much to both of you. So, unfortunately, we've only got around 10 minutes left, so I'll try to be combining all of the questions we're getting as much as possible. So, a question that we're getting a lot in the chat box is asking both of you, ideally, when should I begin drafting my college essays? And under that, how long did yours take? And how did you balance all of the things you were doing, getting good grades, your extracurriculars, and your social life alongside writing your essays?
Start as early as possible. I'm for your own sake. Start as early as possible. Okay, and I remember doing this activity. I try to mimic it, like how I'd write it, how I wrote it when I was like at the end of like junior year. But again, you sit down and you do something like this. And this is like a map, right? So that's you. That's you. And then list the first like line is everything that you think of that's like important to you, whether it's you're a member, like okay, I thought of like what I would have written when I was a junior. So again, first point is like growing up like with an autistic brother, like in Manila. But what's next, right? So I was like, oh, that led me to like caring for children like with disabilities, especially. Oh, I linked it to like an activity I did when I was in high school, which is that I joined like this like this organization when I was in high school. I was an active member for 4 years and like the kids church ministry. But then also like it links to, like wanting to pursue disability studies. And that's only like a course offered at Georgetown. So it will all link, or like here like the debate thing, like I found was able to find a link between that and like growing up with my brother. So like if you sit down and write that whole thing, it will become this huge web that will also like connect, and then you're going to be able to get essay topics from there or ideas of what to write about. But it's really about sitting down and being very rigorous about reflecting and analyzing on yourself to be able to get there. So start that, I'd say, at like the end of your junior year, beginning of your senior year, I'd suggest. Because also if you're gonna do early action is in October. So like you're gonna be wanting to write this stuff by like first drafts by like July, well, yeah, like July, August. But then if you're doing like regular, so just like be writing that entire time, because no matter what, you're gonna keep rewriting and revising. So you want to do that as early as possible. Um, and then how long did it take me? I started writing in like August, then I submitted my Georgian ones in October. And then while I was like waiting for my decision, I was writing like common app like ones that I would have had to submit in January. So you see it's like a 6 month window. And then how do you balance that? Some days you really don't like some days you really just have to like not go somewhere and just sit at home and like write, or in between classes write any chance you get to like write and you feel like you're in the mood to just like let some thoughts free, like sit down and write it. And also, but also like conversely, if you're not feeling it, don't write. Like if you want to go out like with your friends, or if you want to, like if you have to go to training for something and you can't skip it, then and you know that like it won't make your essay any better because your head is somewhere else. So really write, and like I guess be disciplined about it by like allocating like 1 hour at this time, like every day, where you know you'll have the energy to do it. Or like on Saturdays, I'm gonna block out a time chunk from like 2 to 4. I'm gonna write my essays then. It's really all about finding your own schedule and finding like your own pace, and then sticking and being disciplined at that pace. And about like balance, like have like it's all about your mindset, right? Like at some point you're gonna be like why am I doing this? Like this sucks. Like especially because like as you're like most students like at camp also went to like high schools like that have like college entrance tests for like Ateneo, LaSalle. I did the same thing. I was doing like Philippine sets and like SATs, and it was hard. Like I was like, this is really tough. But at the end of the day, just remember that like the next year, if you write these essays well, you won't be here and you're going to be in a much happier, more fun, better place. And that will always like be worth it. So it's all about like the mindset when you're writing essays.
I think, yeah, in terms of balance, there is an aspect of sacrifice you need to take. I remember, and to be perfectly honest, I started mine way too late. Like I wanted to apply to schools, early decision, and early action, but I started my essays too late. So, you really need to give yourself as much time as you can. I mean, personally, because I missed deadlines, and I think I could have turned out better essays if I started earlier. And you do need to prioritize, make sure that this is a priority. Like you can go out and you can still have a social life and still do extracurricular activities, not related to writing college essays, because no one wants to do that all the time, no, that's like hell. But yeah, like have a part of every single day, like every day, at least have that amount of dedication, so you can like build on your essays a little bit at a time, so it doesn't feel like one giant like mountain of work, because it's going to feel like that at the beginning. It's going to feel very, very overwhelming, like you have no idea what to do, and like no time at all. But once you kind of like set aside some sort of like timeline for how you want to go about writing the essays, it's going to feel a lot more manageable. So just like give yourself time, and when you've given yourself a time you think is appropriate, make sure to spread out your work in a way that doesn't make you feel overwhelmed. And again, that's like your own kind of pace. I mean, for me, I work well under pressure, so I didn't give myself that much time. That kind of backfired too. So just like kind of knowing like how you work your own work ethic, and like splitting it up so it doesn't feel like a mountain of work. And also, I think make sure to research what school you want to go to first. I know that sounds like really stupid, but the reason why I also started my essays late is because I didn't know exactly what school I wanted. Like I did a lot of research. I went to the campuses, and I made sure that eventually the ones I chose were the ones I would want to go to without a doubt, without a second thought. And try to make that decision as early as possible, try to like do your research at the school, try to talk to like alumni from the school to really get a feel like of what it would be like living there, because living abroad is really different. It's a whole different culture. It isn't just differences with, you're not just going there for the school and like the academics, it's a whole new life you're going to have over there. So really making sure that you can like acculturate yourself into schools abroad is like really important. So giving yourself time, yeah, again, giving yourself time to like make that decision, make it like well, and then giving yourself time to like write applications for that is what's like really important, and start as early as you can.
Great, thanks both of you. So now we're unfortunately at our last question. But I think this is a really important one for all of the seniors out there who are really worried about where to start. So we wanted to ask, what resources were the most helpful to you in writing your college essays? Whether that may be specific people who help you proofread, or actual like online resources or classes that you took. Please let us know.
Your friends, and be very careful about which friends you're asking to read your essays, are going to be your greatest help, like in writing your essays. Get someone you trust and read, but who also won't lie to your face, like to send them the essay and then let them like proofread. Also, if you have someone you're close to who has already been through the college writing process and they're already like studying abroad, ask them for help, because really like the community abroad, everyone wants to help everyone. Like we understand and we've been through the process. We understand how hard it is to like study abroad, like as a Filipino, like especially from, like I came from like ICA. ICA helped me in no ways at all, like to apply abroad. Like it was all me and like the people I was reaching out to. But know that you like aren't alone, and that literally like you can reach out to anyone from camp. You also, like I bet like Sophia and I, like you can message either of us, like there will be someone who will proofread your essay. Especially also try to find someone at the school you're applying to who can like even just read through it quickly and give like quick tips. That will really help. um I've heard some people do this, like they ask their like English teacher to read it, but the problem with that is they might like use too much of their like English teacher side, which is like grammar and like everything, to critique it, which is why like I wouldn't suggest that. I really suggest students who are already studying at the school that you're applying to, or who have gone through this application essay writing process, your peers. And then also, if you're looking online, well, what I used to figure out like what classes like were being offered by universities is this website. It's called Corsical. So you basically just go, like you don't have to have like an account, go to corsical.com and then click the school, and then you can go to courses, and then you can see all the courses like listed for students that semester. Click through it, you can read the descriptions, see the professors, And then that's how you're also able to like use it as a resource. Resource is also just the school's website pages, like really just anything you want to know about the school, you'll be able to find through, like through just doing research. So um also, yeah, like just I saw this one question that like I really want to answer, like how do you talk about people that inspire you without taking attention away from yourself, because I know that's a problem. Two of my essays were written about like I talked about my brother, then the second essay talked about my grandfather. You don't want it to sound like they're applying and you're writing for them, right? Like you want it to be that they have taught you something very specific, and then do that in 1 to 2 paragraphs, two at most, and then how what they taught you has influenced what you're doing and what you've done. So then it shifts completely to you. We get it. So like keep it very short and concise. Why they inspire you, why they matter to you. Move on to how you've applied that to your own life and how you're going to continue applying that as you go through college. So that's like the best way to do it. Because I struggled with that too, because I was writing about other people in both of my essays. So that's like a tip I would give.
Um, so I think that like looking at sample essays of like ones I've been submitted and accepted to schools is really good. That's one. Two, again, like peers. So people, as Arianna have said, people that are currently writing essays and people who have written essays. So like alumni from the schools you want to apply to, but also like older students in your own like high school, that's really great as well. And I did get my English teachers and tutors to like proofread my essays and look at them. But what Arianna said was correct. They kind of have their own like way of writing, and you don't want that in your essay, but the edits they make kind of speak to those aspects of them as writers. So you do kind of want to avoid that, and as you're getting all this inspiration and using all these resources, make sure that the voice that you're speaking with in your essay is your own. Like you can like look at sample essays, but make sure you're not writing that exact one. You could look at your peers' essays, but make sure you're not writing your peers' essay. But definitely like have your peers and people that you think know you very well as a person proofread your essays, because you after a while you kind of get like writer's fatigue, and the same thing to the same sentence that you've been rewriting and writing just sounds like it just sounds terrible no matter which way you phrase it. So having fresh eyes look at it every so often, like I remember every time I would rewrite even a single line, like there are certain like people that I had who I trusted, who I would say, how does this sound? Or like, how does this sound? Because they have more of an objective viewpoint, when you're in like the thick of like writing all these different essays. And also remember that you're not writing an English essay. You're not writing something that's going to sound like a book or like an amazing piece of literature. You're writing just about yourself. And I also saw another question, is it really important to be unique in the essay? Focus on who you are. If you like other things that other people like, obviously we all kind of like things that other people like. So you don't need to have a crazy aspect of you which is so out of the I don't think I have one aspect of me which is so like crazy that no one else does, but it's about like communicating who you are as a person through the tone in which you write your essay, and through little pieces of it that are or like make your personality shine through is really important. But yeah, like honestly, getting as many eyes to look at it as you can is always great. Whether that be your friends, like whether that be your friends, like other alumni, even your parents. I think I had my parents read through it, and they gave some advice. Just like make sure that it's not other people contributing to like what you're writing, but that it's really like yourself.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. Now, I'm sure you also have so many questions, but we're unfortunately at the end of our time together. Thank you so much to our speakers, Arianna and Sophia, and to all of our participants as well. We hope you learned something new. We do want to promote a few things. Firstly, you can apply to be a mentee or mentor under CAMP's mentorship program for assistance like personalized essay help. So if you think that you learned a lot from this workshop, but you're still struggling to write those essays, go ahead and apply to be a CAMP mentee, and your mentor will give you personalized assistance. These are people who applied and study abroad, so I'm sure they'll be able to help you. This applies, by the way, whether you're a regular or intensive mentee. Secondly, we'll be having a talk in the next few minutes about standardized testing, so stay tuned for that. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.